Welcome to TRS Clips, where you'll find happiness through your own curiosity. So I'm very proud of Hinduism. I'm very proud of India. I'm very proud of this subcontinental land and our culture.
Yeah.
I just think over the course of doing the show with skeptics as well, the one thing I've learned is that one key aspect was the Zoroastrian
Yes.
religion, which I truly believe was a sister religion. I remember doing an episode on Islam with an Islamic scholar, and he spoke about how even Islam was formed due to the religions that existed before Islam. And those religions were probably an outcome of earlier religions as well.
Correct.
Now, these earlier set of religions are called the classical religions, and they say that only Zoroastrianism and Hinduism are the two classical religions which have survived. So, while I love the fact that we've survived, I think our time spent in survival has allowed us to create astronomy and shlokas and
Yes.
all these things.
Agriculture, navigation.
All of it. Everything that we attribute to the greatness of ancient India,
Yes.
it's an outcome of us having survived.
Yes.
I also feel that perhaps Zoroastrianism also is quite advanced.
Yes.
Like in terms of it knows a lot.
Yeah.
And I have a very close friend of mine, Zarwan Bancha. He's a Parsi and he keeps making fun of the fact that, oh, we are Parsis, we're going extinct. He says it as a joke, but the unfortunate truth is that Parsi numbers are dwindling.
Yes.
So even Zoroastrianism, it seems like, I don't like saying this, and I know that Parsis watching this, Parsis are very relaxed people.
Yes.
So they don't get easily offended. I've noticed this. But it seems like the timeline of that religion also may be coming to an end just because of the dwindling numbers.
Correct.
Now, that's just the story of Zoroastrianism. How many other classical religions were there which actually came to an end?
Yeah.
Which brings me to the point of that migration out of Africa. I get that we, as a human species, settled in India and then migrated outwards. And there's genetic studies that prove this when you study patrilineal lineage and matrilineal lineage. But my question is, why didn't humans settle in the Gulf as well?
Okay.
Because the Gulf is midway between Africa and India.
Correct.
So were the conditions in the Gulf bad or?
Good point. Well, right now you look at the conditions, you know the answer, you know your answer. Other than say parts of Oman. Oman is a beautiful place, very, picturesque also. But even then, within the Gulf context, it is picturesque, it's a tough land still. So today, if the oil is not there and the external commerce doesn't exist, it's a very tough life in the Middle East, just by itself. So similar conditions did exist there for a long time, also in the Northern Africa. And so therefore, they did not live there. But if you look at the genetic makeup, you will find there were many times in the history of humanity that the Gulf was a thriving community. For example, especially the area near Israel, Jordan, Syria, that area. For example, if you ask an academic, when did agriculture begin? You will get a very ignorant answer that came from a Cambridge University 7,000 years ago into the Levant, that area, and from there it moved out. Well, Levant did have agriculture. I'm so surprised that evidence, a very fabulous evidence exists for 100 years. A very sophisticated evidence showing that there was a well-developed agriculture in Levant, especially Syria, Jordan, Israel, that area, going back to 15,000 plus years. I have the information. I don't know what academics do.
You mean they found tools?
The grains, they are called phytoliths. Like, the grains also become fossilized.
Oh, okay.
And you can look at them to decide whether they were wild grains or basically cultivated grains and so on and so forth. Very fascinating. Same thing in India. Just because we are agriculture, let me mention. Everyone says, oh, so agriculture came to India from Levant. Nonsense. That's the only word. In the Indian subcontinent, there is a evidence that this is a land where if you don't do anything, still things grow. Okay, and for a very long time, million plus years, that is the situation in India. There is at least evidence going back to 45,000 years of a wild harvesting of grains, their storage, their cooking, their siphoning and all of this. 45,000 years ago.
In India?
In India. Africa, actually Sri Lanka. In Sri Lanka. And then in India, going back to 10,000 years, 12,000 years, very good agriculture.
But do you agree with the fact that human beings originated in Africa?
That is the current theory. there is, based on the evidence, there is a good reason to believe that, like a L, the L initially, the Lucy, that's why the L, that the oldest thing that the fossil they found and so on. Not oldest anymore, but still. But the genetic trail does tell you that it started from Africa and came here. However, there is more and more evidence popping up all over the world. One of my good friend and my adopted Canadian mom, Ushi Ringlep, she's a German Canadian, has done fascinating research on the connection of Polynesian languages with Sanskrit, coming from Sanskrit. That's a sidebar. She has done this research too. I am doing this research. Many others are doing it. That very likely there were many pockets of human origin. Just like different animals, similar looking animals can pop up in different places, very much like that. There is, but even if we keep that aside, maybe we have to wait for some time. There is a recent paper, 2020 paper. The paper title goes something like this: Homo erectus left Africa, returned as Homo sapiens sapiens, like as a thinking human. And do you know where they became thinking human? Take a guess. India. The broader India. When we say India of the past, like going back beyond 2,000 years, 4,000 years, it's very important the Indians understand it. The Iran is India. Afghanistan is India. Pakistan is India. Even the Uttara Kuru, Uttara Madra, that is India. India in the sense of cultural landscape.
Okay. So effectively what you're saying is our predecessor, which was not entirely human, some form of a cave
Called Homo erectus, yeah.
Homo erectus actually was migratory.
Yeah.
And it gradually spread itself out of Africa,
correct,
out of Asia, and then in Iran, stretch it up to India.
Yes.
As well as in Central Asia, stretch it up to Lanka.
Yeah, that's India.
Yeah.
That's ancient India. That became a genetic cuisine for human beings. Lots of different, ranges came, and that's how they are named right now. So, for example, when you see R, that is for Rohini. That's how the name is given. M from the southern India, like the female gene, chromosomal, mitochondrial gene, is called Manju. That's how the names are given. N is Nasreen, now referring to the Middle East.
You'll have to give a bit of genetics 101 here. I get what, we can do it now, because I think it's actually linked. This is how you deep dive into the science of this theory that you're saying.
So imagine, in a very simple way, think of our cricket ball. Like in India, everyone understands cricket,
sure,
right? So we take a cricket ball and just imagine we put some patch on it, like some specific patch, blue patch. Now, because this cricket ball is dead, but with the human beings, like they produce children, they are going to produce the children with a blue patch on them, so to say. That is the change that has occurred to the gene. Okay. And if we track it, we know we can track it back to which genetic tree we came from. That's how these names are. So certain genetic code that you can match and say, hey, this is consistent, we call this Manju. But if we call it Manju, if it's a X chromosome, like the female chromosome, so to say. If it's on the Y chromosomes, they have given different names, like the man's name to it, so forth, M17 and so on and so forth. If you look at that, you essentially find, and this is a paper from 2020. I mean, you go to Google Map, you're going to find things came from Africa through Gulf, Middle East. But then from India, just like, you see the airline map from Delhi and Mumbai, like planes going everywhere. You're going to see all these lines, the female, the mother's lines, as well as the man's line, like R gene, for example, R, going outside India.
Okay.
Right.
One more angle on genetic studies, and this is picked up from Dr. Neeraj Rai.
Yeah.
Matrilineal lineage, I believe it's called, right?
Matrilineal, which is a mitochondrial, is a matrilineal.
In terms of every girl and her mother, and her mother, and her mother, and her mother, and you can go all the way back, shares something in common, one common link. That is called matrilineal lineage, and that can be mapped in the genome, I believe.
Correct.
Similarly, there's patrilineal lineage. So you and me as men share something in common with our fathers, with their fathers, with his father, his father, his father, and it goes back.
Yes.
That's the basis of everything you're saying right now.
Correct.
When you're talking about these lines that leave India, I think what you're trying to say is that if you study modern day Europeans and modern day Indians, they share some common ancestor, which likely The Europeans would like to believe originated in Europe.
Yeah.
The Indians would like to believe it originated in India.
Correct. And the science tells you that most of them originated in India based on the age, the antiquity of that gene. So for example, I mean, I'll not go into technicality, but yes, so R exists in Europe, R exists in India. Now, who gave it to who? That is the question. So there is a way in genetics. It's not a perfect science yet. It's progressing tremendously. But based on this, you can say, like, where you find these older cricket balls with the older stamps. You find in India, but you don't find that older one in England. So you know that it started in India. It's something like that.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Hey, if you enjoyed today's clip, make sure you check out all the other clips we've uploaded on this channel. You'll find a clip related to almost every single topic as long as you're willing to search for it.